Regrets that you will not be able to make tonight's meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, want to do roll call?
Mayor Jacobs.
I am here.
Committeeman Hickey.
Here.
Mr. Shaka.
Here.
Mr. Rodelius.
Here.
Mr. Leonard.
Here.
Mr. DiGiovanni.
Present.
Mr. Travellini.
Here.
Chairwoman Getchell.
Here.
I'm here too.
You forgot Scott?
I'm here
did.
too.
Mr. Zupnik.
I am here.
I know, with the one
That's right.
that's
It's February. I'm my today's February. Today's here with most of us folks.
I'm very sorry. Mr. Zupnik, you're here, right?
I am. Thank you.
Open public meeting statement. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Bedminster Township Land Use Board was filed with the Township Clerk and sent to the Bernardsville News and the Courier News and to all subscribers and posted at the Township Municipal Building, 1 Miller Lane, Bedminster, New Jersey, on January 16, 2020.
Please stand for the flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have minutes to approve from our January 9th meeting. Everybody's read them. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
That was a tough call. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Everybody was here, I believe? Was everybody? No.
Actually, I had to abstain because I
You
was
did,
last
you were
meeting.
not here? Yeah. Everybody else was here? Oh, we did that. The minutes have passed. We'll just come all the way to today. Okay, we have a resolution from our last meeting, 395 Cedar Ridge Road.
Move to accept. Seconded.
Okay, we need a roll call. Mhm.
You guys were not here for that, correct?
I was here.
Okay. Mr. Jacobs.
Aye.
Mr. Shaka.
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius. Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. DiGiovanni.
Aye.
Mr. Zupnik.
Aye.
Mr. Travellini.
Aye.
Chairwoman Getchell.
Aye. I'll open it up to the public for anyone who may want to talk about something that's not on the agenda.
Good evening, Brian Haggerty, Fairview Drive, Bedminster. This is on the agenda, Stoughton. I'm revisiting a topic I raised at an earlier meeting about the third round housing element and fair share plan. And that was the June 7, 2018. And that's the report or the settlement that found that we generally are fine on our core obligation with the exception of the rental units for family units where there is a 28 requirement to be provided. And that would translate a 15% inclusion to 187 units, round up to 186.7, sorry for the mistake I made last time. And as I read this under section E2, E being the third round obligations, 2 family units, 113 required, 64 for family rentals, 28 required, 20 to be provided, etc. It's not sure exactly what this is, but as I'm reading the text of the 20-something pages of the settlement, it doesn't seem to recognize units that result from variances because the requirement is to rezone or build. And it's very clear it says to rezone or build. And I understand the subcommittee is beginning to meet. I just wanted to call that to your attention because the half of the 3-year period has passed. And I was also, as a follow-up to that, wondering when the subcommittee report will become public to the board and public discussion can begin. Because if rezoning is called for, we have at least two attorneys in the room. If rezoning is called for, there's public hearing requirements under the ordinances. And You don't need to answer now, people may not know right now, but I'd like you to consider that, and there's another meeting next week, so thank you very much.
Mhm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, we'll close that portion. We have determination of completeness for Putnam tonight.
Madam Chairman, this is the application that's on the agenda tonight for variance associated with the construction of a garage. Documentation was submitted. I previously reviewed it for completeness. That letter was dated January 13th. There are a few waivers requested by the applicant. It's my opinion that those waivers can and should be granted, and it's recommended the application be deemed complete.
Okay. Janine, you want to do a roll call?
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Mayor Committeeman Hickey?
Aye.
Mr. Strakoff?
Eventually.
Mr. Strakoff?
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. DeGiovanni?
Aye.
Mr. Zupnik?
Aye.
Mr. Travellini?
Aye.
Chairwoman Gutschall?
Aye. Okay. We'll skip down. Do we have any comments from the planning board? Anyone from the board has any comments?
I don't know, I'll just make a note that, many of you may have seen the article in the Burnsville News about the planning grant that was issued by the Highlands Council to Somerset County to further the investigation for planning options for the AT&T campus. I have had discussions directly with senior management at AT&T, and they expressed a willingness and a commitment to participate as that planning process commences.
Okay.
And in discussions with Somerset County Planning, they expect the RFP for that planning study to be issued probably within the next week or so.
Yeah, 2 weeks. The next 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
that's an update.
Are we sure we're not asking AT&T to leave? Well, our planning.
I just received a few minutes ago a memo from the Historical Commission regarding the feather flags, and the board has talked about it. I think it would be appropriate we talk about it next week when we do our subcommittee and make a recommendation. Is that the right procedure? I assume it is.
I think so.
I think so too.
Tom?
Tom, we're asking for procedure. Sorry.
Frank was interrupting.
We're doing business, Bedminster business.
In regards to-
But, I missed the question.
That's okay.
I
I
can't do
got,
2 things at once. My wife tells me that all the time.
make a note that Ann has just come in, please. I just got a memo from the Historical Commission regarding the feather flags. They're making a recommendation to us to do something, take some action. So I assume that we should go to the subcommittee with this and
So, yeah.
and then make a recommendation to the planning board.
I think so. We also need the zoning officer to help us focus attention on it, and what is it that we might change. We were getting some research from the zoning officer about the Burnsville sign regulations, something like that.
They
So-
do make mention of that in memo.
Yeah, so subcommittee plus zoning officer plus Frank. Paul, if we need him, but I don't think Paul cares too much about that.
Well, then I would say Janine, make sure that the zoning officer also has a copy of that memo.
Will do.
And they refer to a memo that went to the Township Committee. I'm assuming that that also went to the Township Committee. Okay,
We have a new zoning officer, is that true?
excuse me?
We have a new zoning officer?
Yes, Joe Hagley.
Yeah, yeah.
So Joe should also take a look at, I believe it was Burnersville, but it might have been other municipality regulations of similar you call them, flag signs? or-
Yeah, they mentioned of Morristown and
So-
Bernardsville,
some
a
research
couple
on-
other towns.
I think that the meeting would be most productive if he gathers some
Info.
municipal ordinances that seem to be effective and do what the zoning officer might recommend, or sort of how to address the subject,
Right,
alternatives to addressing the subject.
right. Okay.
I think that's
yes.
Morristown, Tennessee,
Oh,
according
is that
to
what
this
it said
letter.
there? Mhm.
if I read it.
Yes.
Oh, I thought there was a comma. Morristown,
No, it's Pinal County, Arizona, Morristown, Tennessee, and Alma, Michigan.
yeah, I think it is Morristown. The comma there, I think.
But there's comma between every city. and
Well,
state.
that's true, yeah, that's true. Well, I'm confused, but let the zoning officer do it. Let him decide which
But
town
it's
it
not
is.
next door, I don't think.
Okay.
I remember that Bernardsville was a subject of discussion, so.
Yeah. I just have a question for Tom. The process, can you review the process again? The subcommittee makes some research and studies, it makes some recommendations to our board, who then makes,
On this?
yeah, on this, and then makes an ordinance recommendation to the township committee? What's
There's
the
no
process?
there's no automatic process, but on this, I believe we started with, if you think about it, I think the HPC sent a memo that went to subcommittee, went to the board, went to the subcommittee, we needed some input from the zoning officer, and we're still working on it. But there's no like, it has to be this way type of thing.
And it does it require a change to the master plan, or is that recommended?
Not usually. Sometimes, probably not. I mean, you check that it, but I don't think we talk about flag signs in the master plan, so I hope we don't. That's minutia, so you don't usually get into that level of detail in the master plan.
Just an ordinance change.
So. Ordinance change, and it's a sign ordinance change, and the
Right.
sign ordinances are kind of, we call them sui generis. They just basically are, each town has their own sign standards, and
Yeah.
they're all kind of.
Rich, do you
Didn't we
have-
change the sign ordinance recently?
We discussed it, but we never...
We talked about
We
it.
never did anything.
We
right?
need
That's
that.
right. We're getting.
No,
Is that a
we
separate-
didn't.
Is that a separate subcommittee, or is that part of this master plan review?
I think it can be part of the master plan.
It can be part of the master
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah,
Okay.
And we discussed it
Yeah.
briefly in master plan, but there was a change to the sign ordinance.
Yeah, zoning officer came to our meeting that one time.
That
right?
was a different...
No, but that's-
the size
2 or
of
3 years
signs.
ago?
Yeah, it's been some time. There was a change a
That was
few
the
years
size
We were
ago.
talking about signage comprehensively, not just
Yes,
these
correct.
silly signs.
Right.
Right.
So there's been no change as applied to these feather flag signs, not in years.
okay.
Okay, so we need an agenda.
Yeah, so
Right.
when we meet, when the subcommittee meets, and we did have a discussion briefly about this last year, and so that we'll just continue that discussion into
Right.
2020.
But I think before we do have the meeting, I think if the zoning officer could get some typical sign ordinances that he thinks might work.
I think on flags, he did bring us a couple when we met that early morning last year.
Mhm.
But if we're going to do
I don't think I saw.
revision of the ordinance, we need to look at all the different things that we might want to consider. So just leave it at that.
Janine, could you ask Joe to gather those sample ordinances?
From other municipalities?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, Paul, we go back to you with pending applications.
We have 3 pending applications. The first is USET for a barn on Pottersville Road. I just received some additional documentation in my office this evening. It's my anticipation that that will be complete and can be scheduled for a hearing. I know, Janine, they contacted you as to when they could be heard. Was it the first meeting in March?
Either in March, they just couldn't do February.
Right, and I think we'll find out later on that it's going to be looking for the second meeting in March. So I think we should schedule it for the first meeting in March.
Okay,
Which would be the 5th.
okay.
Second application on the agenda is, or on the list here, is Bedminster Farms application. This is a major subdivision of properties along Lamington Road. You've seen a portion of the property before as the 1120 Lamington Road LLC subdivision that has not yet been perfected. It's a major subdivision. It's my opinion that it should be referred to the Environmental Commission for them to review and comment on it. So if it's okay with the board, I'll have Janine send that information over to them so they can look at it at their next meeting so we get that feedback. I have not yet reviewed it for completeness, so I don't know where it'll sit, but I would anticipate that by the March meeting, we can start talking about when that will be on the agenda.
Okay.
Is that, that's listed as planning board?
Yes.
Do you anticipate that as staying as a planning board matter? Or?
Because I don't see density issues, and density really is the only thing that would kick it to the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
Is there a preliminary plan or anything, Paul?
Yes, but it's just been submitted, there's only been a couple of copies submitted because it's in for completeness at this point. Once it's been determined to be complete, then sufficient copies come in for the entire
Can you
board.
give me just a general idea where block 39, lot 12 is?
It is east of the Lamington Farm Golf Club. And it is in the vicinity of the power substation. That's on Lamington Road. That, unless you know where it is, you don't know where it is.
Does this connect,
That's not helpful.
so does it
And
connect
what-
to,
And where's
connects to Larcher Cross?
That's true.
Does it come around, does it hit Larcher Cross and then come back and around?
I'm not sure that it goes to Larger Cross Road.
Okay. I think at one point,
East of Trump.
Yeah.
On that side of the highway?
It's south of
Yes.
Lamington Road.
Same,
Okay.
south side.
South of Lamington Road, east of the golf course.
And how many units roughly are they trying to?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I don't know exactly what number.
Okay.
We've got time. You'll have plenty of time to review.
Yeah.
Do we have an environmental liaison?
George?
George.
Yeah, and I would say this, and this has been the case for many years. We had a meeting last night. The next meeting is for the middle of March. So it's like the third Wednesday. And so we usually, you know, we get the news a little late. So by the time we would hear the applicant, land use is already, you know, they've already.
Well, this won't be on before your next meeting.
Oh, okay, I thought you were saying you're trying to get it for March.
No.
Ah.
Completeness potentially. in
Completeness
March.
from
Oh,
March.
okay,
Yeah.
good, yeah.
So I can forward it to you, or would you prefer?
No,
copies for
send it to
everybody?
the chair. Send it to Dawn.
Will do. Thank you.
Absolutely.
The next one on the agenda is Lamington River Farms. That's better known as Fiddler's Elbow. It's an application for the construction, for the expansion of an existing building. To be completely frank, the project started. They were issued a stop work order. They've got to come in for site plan approval for that. Not a particularly complex application, but I've got to look at that for completeness and get it on the agenda. Again, the completeness we'll be dealing with early in March.
Okay. Okay. You think it'll be the first meeting in March? You think?
At least for the completeness. And I
okay.
haven't looked at it in enough depth.
know.
Maybe the hearing the same night, but we'll have to see what else falls
Okay.
out on the agenda. I know that also, there's another application coming in for the cidery up on Route 206. There'll be a sign variance application for that dropping in fairly soon,
Okay.
but we haven't received it yet.
All right. Elite Properties, I know they've asked for postponement till March 12th, I believe.
Yes.
Yes, they've asked it carried to March 12th at 7 PM. And we can confirm for the record that that matter will be carried to March 12th at 7 PM.
Okay. Do you know if they've gone to the Historical Commission? Back to them? Does anybody know? Paul?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
And I'm telling you, you'll announce that next week as well, because that's when it was
Right.
scheduled.
Okay.
But it's not on for, it's not going to be on February 13th.
No, not next week, right. Okay. All right.
Is there any further action that I thought that historical had left it a little open?
I was just curious if they were
Have they
scheduled.
finished whatever their consideration was?
I don't know. I don't know. I just asked the question if they had been staff on the Historical Commission, that's all. Okay, we're ready for our application. Putnam, 1741 Leamington Road.
Good evening.
Ron, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Certainly. Ronald Kennedy, 265 Main Street, in Blackstone.
Confirm for the record that the board recognizes and accepts Mr. Ronald Kennedy's qualifications as a professional engineer and professional planner. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Let me mark these of this first.
Sure, go right ahead.
It's fine, Ron. Don't worry.
So Tom, A1
Right.
is just existing conditions and project data
Okay?
dated December 20th, 2019, no revision. And the second exhibit, upside down. The second exhibit is site plan comparison, and today's date, February 6, 2020. A2, I'll label that.
Thank you.
Okay. So for the record, it's lot 12, lot 21. It's 1741 Lamington Road, the Putnam residence. And the Putnams are here tonight, it's a 6.21 acre parcel. And the simple aspect of this application is garage that's detached from the house, that's to the rear of the house, tree fell down, wrecked the garage, needs to be replaced, undersized garage, wants to rotate it, put it generally in the same location, change some access around the back of the house for it where the garage comes in. They're over right now in lot coverage, and we need to do a slight expansion of lot coverage. So based on that, it needs a C2 variance for the exceedance of lot coverage, 5% in the zone. It's a 6.21 acre lot, and I'll go through the proofs of it and show you the development patterns around the house, and show you the proofs of why we asked for relief of the lot coverage under C2 variance. On A1, Lamington Road, across the bottom of the sheet, the exhibit, and the intersection of Cedar Ridge Road where it meets Lamington Road. Right side of the sheet then is down where the gas station 206 is, left side of the sheet goes down towards Dewsbury. As you can see on this map, the house itself is on the left side of, the right side of the property. It's generally a rectangular lot. Farm field that is to the left side or to the west. House is, I'll say for Lamington, a very stately house, not oversized, relatively close to the road, has a circular driveway that's in the front of it, a pond that's to the rear, and then the garage we're going to talk about is to the rear of the house. There's a circular driveway, and then there's an existing drive that comes around the back to the garage, and I'll show some comparisons and a little blow-up detail of that. Again, house environ, the tree area around the house, nice setting off the Lamington Road, it's around 6 or 7 foot higher. There's a pool behind the house next to the garage, and that'll be part of what we're talking about with lot coverage. So next exhibit the comparison, I just blew it up and took the house area, garage is behind, here's the pond, there's a pool behind here, circular driveway, Lamington Road's on the bottom of the sheet. The drive comes back, and right now, it's a really tight drive that goes into this garage. Small, relatively speaking, two-car garage, 600 square foot. Right, the proposal is to take that garage, rotate it 90 degrees, and have the access in a right to the left direction here as opposed to the back where you get right up to the back of the house and it's tight to get in and out of the garage space. So it would be back towards the pond area, you drive back, we remove asphalt that's there right now, reorient that to make it more to today's standards. not something that was scripting probably 50, 60 years ago when it was originally built. Make it to what standards. And the garage itself would increase. It would go from 606 square foot to 984 square foot, so it'd be a slight increase in square footage. In that space, there's some storage. In that space, because of the pool equipment room would go into the building, which is outside right now. And with the pool, they had a desire to have a bathroom at the pool, so you don't have to go back to the house, but you go right near the garage. A small patio that's between the garage and the pool itself that's shown on the plan. So that being taken into account with the reduction of asphalt and the area that is a slight expansion of the building itself size, the patio in the back, we're adding approximately 1,000 square foot more than there today. 1,000 square foot. That takes the lot coverage from what is 5.03% right now to 5.42%. Again, 6-acre lots, it's not a 10-acre lot, but it meets all the other criteria. It meets the setbacks, it meets FAR, meets all the other criteria except for lot coverage. In addition to the zoning, in order to effectuate a plan like this, if the board was inclined to approve it, because the pond's back here, it has a slight area that would be considered wetlands. It has a transition area associated with it. We need a general permit to do some of the disturbance in there. Relatively modest permit to get, not difficult. Also, we would be in the riparian buffer for a number of feet, and there's something called a permit by rule. So those two permits, relatively easy to get, that we would have any conditions that we have to get those permits from the TPA. In addition to that, because of the bathroom, we'd have to go to Board of Health and get concurrence with that. Pretty straightforward. Septic system size would change from adding bedrooms to the facility or to the house. We're just adding a simple bathroom, but that would have to be achieved. So based on these reconfigurations of the property from what is the existing condition on the left side to what's being proposed to modernize the garage, get the additional elements of the bathroom, the pool equipment room, the patio to the rear, and a more standardized movement of a car into a garage to the back, we're proposing these improvements. Streetscape doesn't change. Driving by this road when it's done, completed, you would have a hard time seeing the garage in the back. I guess you would stop the car on Lamington Road and look there, you may get a glimpse of it, but for the most part, you're not seeing it behind the house. There's no physical improvements that would be in the front of the house at all. Based on all that, and the balance of the C2 criteria that we would look at here, because of the damage that was done to the garage that was significant by a tree falling down, it's caused them to rethink and rebuild. And now's the time to fix the ills that we talked about with the garage, rotating it, better access to full equipment, bathroom, modest expansion. I'd say it advances the purposes of the zoning through two elements on 4055D2A to encourage municipal actions, provide public health, safety, welfare, and safety. It improves the vehicle access in and out of the garage. The other thing that we tempted and looked at, and again, for another hazard area to counter that, is if I start trimming some of the areas of the driveway and making it smaller, try getting square footage back that way, all of a sudden we get to the point where the driveway's too narrow. And just even in comparison, when we had that debate about why don't we just make the driveway smaller and don't need the variance and go through this process, is you look at, on Exhibit A1, look at the width of these driveways here, and they're about 10 foot wide that's there. And then the common driveway next to it is about 16, 17 foot wide. Okay, so getting these driveways too narrow, wearing a fire department hat, we're having a harder time getting into some of these driveways. So by just meeting a criteria of yours to get under that, we can meet it and just make a narrower gate here and there. But it's become functional, A, for the owner, for the people that come in for that owner, including the garbage truck and whatever service vehicles come in there. Getting in for the community, for the town, we have fire department, hard time getting into some of these driveways because things are getting narrow now. It used to not be the case when it was all farming. There's less of that now on some of these properties, and driveways are getting narrow. And that causes a different set of circumstances there. But because of that, I do think that it does have relevance to this particular case. It also, in Section I, promotes a desirable visual environment through a creative development and good civic design. Again, we're rearranging space that historically was built there for a time that's outdated, and redoing that space, we can accommodate the homeowner of how it gets in and out of that space, but not compromise with the values to the zoning plan and the zoning ordinance. Doesn't change the streetscape. We're putting a driveway in to mitigate any increase in impervious coverage, so it's not changing that. And clearly on the negative criteria, that we think the relief can be granted without substantial detriment to public good. We had the stormwater management to increase any of that, no change to the streetscape, and again, we're improving a visual impact, not taking away from that. It's not going to be visible from the road. Driving by here, no one would say, boy, that site's overbuilt. There's not, there's not an indoor-outdoor arena, there's not all these other things, it's a very modest environment, and truly what defines Lamington Road, it's a great setting. If anyone's been by this, or you've all been by the house, but if you notice the house, it's a great setting, great landscape around that. So it's because of those reasons that this board can grant relief from the variance. There's a couple, the two review letters from both Paul Ferraro and Frank Vanish. I think I touched on most of those items that are here, nothing additional. And there's really not many conditions from an engineering standpoint, Paul, that will agree to the elements that are in the letter. That's all.
The bathroom doesn't indicate a dwelling unit of any...
No, there is a lofted space there that's on the second floor, but it's storage, it's not a living unit, there's no proposal for any living space that's up there. The bathroom's on the first floor, and the door it goes directly outside into the pool area. It's not one that says, oh boy, if I do this, I can squeeze this in.
And one of the comments recommended that there be a condition that there be no dwelling unit in the garage.
Right. Mhm.
That's fine.
Right. Okay. Anything from the board?
Pretty straightforward.
Anything from the
Just
board?
quick,
Nick?
all these roads on the side, et cetera, that are creating coverage, what purpose do they serve?
They're,
Well, on the left.
it's all property.
Those are all
property. Those are all property. So just as background, Rich, these are, it's common driveways to 3 lots that are,
And the yellow line is the lot.
the yellow line's the lot, that's the 6 acre area.
And when the R10 was created, not too long ago, this 5% coverage was instituted contemplating a 10-acre lot?
It was, and believe it or not, there's a sliding scale. If we're under 6 acres, the lot goes up, the lot coverage goes up. So if we sold 0.21 acres,
Don't do it.
The lot was smaller.
the lot was smaller by 2.21 acres.
You'd be okay decide.
Well, I didn't run the math, but we'd be closer, because again, as the lots get smaller, what the town did when they changed that zoning, they said, we're not going to make every lot in Western Bedminster non-conforming. So they have a section in there that has these whole elements of what's non-conforming. So you're still conforming even though you're undersized, and it had reductions in setbacks based on percentages, and it had reductions or increases in FAR and increases in lot coverage if the lots got to a certain size. In that case, on those density issues, it had ranges. And the range here was, I believe it's 6 acres to 10 acres was a range that there was no change in those things. When it got below 6 acres, then lot coverage and FAR started jumping up higher. But again, if I got rid of 0.21 acres, likely it was a lot.
That's interesting.
We'll be using a septic for that bathroom? Is there a
It
septic?
is, it'll go into the existing septic. Okay, so the septic was replaced a number of years ago for the house, so it meets the criteria for the bedrooms there. So what'll happen is out of this bathroom, which will be detached from the main house, it'll just tie into the septic tank. So it'll come across the lateral, tie into there, go through the septic tank that's there, and then go to the disposal. We gotta go to the Board of Health and do the approvals with that.
Are you going to provide any, because there's a bathroom out there and piping, is there going to be any heating out there at all? Are they going to shut the water off?
I don't know. Did you have? No, the owner said they wouldn't have. heat.
Okay.
So you gotta turn it off.
You didn't shut the
The
water off.
gravel driveway in front of the garage, I guess that's cars back out, and turn around and come out.
Yes.
Just curious, does that
area impinge on the wetland at all? Is
It
that,
it slightly does, okay? If there's a 50-foot transition area, we're going to go into about 10 feet, and we will have to get a series of permits from the state, both for wetlands, the general permit for wetlands, and because it's also in the same area as the riparian buffer, the buffer, we'll need what's called a permit by rule to encroach into those areas.
The right-
Relatively achievable permits that you get from
Ron, you mean wetlands transition area is going to be disturbed, not the wetlands, right?
Correct, yeah. It's
The
the
transition
wetlands
area,
itself.
the buffer.
So it's the wetlands and there's a 50-foot transition area. We're serving about 10 foot into that transition.
Is there danger a car will go beyond that and get into
No,
some mud or
and
something?
again, it's fairly gradual there. It's not like there's a steep cliff that we're going off. It's a gradual space that's out there. So I will concern myself with that. And we'll transition it correctly, so it's not just a fall off. We're trying to improve the situation.
Very good.
Anyone else on the board? No? I'll open it up to the public. I see no one.
If anybody's interested in a math problem,
Okay.
sold 0.22 acres, they could have 22,000 square feet of coverage. Because they're 6.21, they're permitted 14,000 square feet.
I love engineers.
Some things you just can't make up.
I knew, Rich, you couldn't sleep tonight.
So that sliding scale was obviously prepared by a planner.
So this,
Well, yeah, actually, I did not. I wrote the ordinance in the other zones where there is a horizontal line in the sliding scale.
What's the max?
I don't know who wrote this one.
What's the max for a 10-acre lot? Does that give them more coverage than they would get with a conforming 10-acre lot?
No.
Gives them the same.
It's pretty close, yeah.
Percentage-wise.
No, I mean,
Same
no, I'm saying if they went down to 6 acres and they could have 22,000 square feet of lot coverage, what's the lot coverage for a 10-acre lot?
5%.
23,000. Half an acre. 20, yeah.
It's 23.
Something like that.
Yeah, about the same.
5% of 10 acres.
Okay.
An acre is 43,000 square feet.
And that's because it's 8.5% coverage, but that goes all the way down to a 2-acre lot in the R10 zone. That same 8.5%.
Sound like it's much.
Just a savings, there's savings clauses that they don't have to have been included, but the concept was, I think it's even before my time, it was basically to provide opportunities to just still build on your existing now undersized lot that are now still lawful lots, okay? It's actually a courtesy, it makes it easier. They just happen to have the problem with the intervals, so.
So, to be so bold, to cut to the quick, I don't know if anybody else wants to hear anything more. What are the conditions we'd add to this thing, because I'm ready to go.
Well, I just want to, nothing big, I just want to know from Ron, would you like it to be effective this evening, so you don't have to wait till next month?
yeah, if we could, because we're ready to start building permits.
Okay, so I'll dictate it, it's a motion to approve this C2 variant requested by the Putnams, as described this evening by Ron Kennedy, with the conditions discussed this evening and stated by Paul Ferrero in his report and Frank in his report, and the condition that there'll be no dwelling unit in the garage. It's effective this evening, so the applicant can proceed effective immediately, provided all other approvals are obtained, as described by Mr. Kennedy. And the
That's
standard
the permits,
conditions.
that's the permits that he outlined?
Yeah, they still have to get the
I'll have
Board of Health-
environmental and.
Health Department,
and,
the
Board of Health.
transition area waiver, the riparian buffer permission, the standard things.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, we need a vote, Ginny.
Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Committeeman Hickey.
Aye.
Mr. Streikoff.
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. DeGiovanni.
Aye.
Mr. Zepnik. Mr. Cavallini.
Aye.
Mrs. Orlbano.
Aye.
Chairwoman Gotcha.
Aye. That's it. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yep, good luck with it.
Enjoy your parking.
Yep.
Go fly fishing in that pond now.
Did Sandy, you brought muscle with you? You had enforcers?
I mean, I'm not sure how to.
In the garage.
Say hi.
Okay, we have one more pending application here from the zoning board.
This is the Rylocate application. It remains incomplete. They have not resubmitted anything.
Okay. Okay, so we'll let us know. We need an adjournment. Motion?
So moved.
Second? Okay. I guess we should talk about next week's meeting. Yes, okay.
It's not complete.
Retract that.
Retract the motion.
Sorry.
Sorry.
What's wrong with it?
Go back.
That's the one on the whole desert area.
Mid-second, we're on the door already.
Okay.
For next week's meeting, there was a suggestion that we talk about whatever updates there are for the county and/or state.
Right.
So we have Tom and/or Frank here. Going
I
to-
can definitely be here, and I can help with the state plan status and what we're working on. And I don't know if you could be here, maybe Larry and Frank could talk about the county effort.
Okay. So that's what we'll have on the agenda, and then we're going to have a subcommittee meeting after that. Okay?
Okay.
So now we can have an adjournment.
So,
Again. You want to stay?
You can stay.
Then I'll be here next week.
I move that Nick can stay.
move that he has.
I see our friend Mr. Galvin has been published